The perceiver. In simple words, perceiver is a person who makes perception. So, a person who became aware of the things or events through his or her senses. That is a perceiver. So, the person who senses things or events. So, before going to the details, please remember to subscribe this channel. Thank you. Different characteristics in perceiver, it affects greatly how an individual perceives others in the environment. So, certain characteristics of the perceiver are needs and motives, self-concept, past experience, current psychological state, beliefs, expectations, situation, cultural upbringing. When a person looks at a target and attempts to interpret what he sees, his interpretation is greatly influenced by these characteristics. So first is needs and motives. Our need pattern, it plays an important part in how we perceive things. A need is a feeling of discomfort or tension when one thing is missing or require something. That is, if we need something and if we miss that, then we will have a feeling of discomfort. Therefore, unsatisfied needs or motives, it stimulate individuals and it can exert a strong influence on the perception. When people are not able to satisfy their needs, they are engaged in wishful thinking, which is a way to satisfy their needs, not in the real world but imaginary world. In such cases, people will perceive only those items which suit their wishful thinking. Motives also influence the perception of the people. For example, people who are devious, that is dishonest, they are prone to see others as dishonest. Then comes self-concept. It indicates how we perceive ourselves, which then influences how we perceive others and the situation we are in. The more we understand ourselves, the more we are able to perceive others accurately. So for this, to perceive something effectively, we must perceive ourselves accurately. Then only we will be able to perceive others. For example, secure people tend to see others as warm and friendly. On the other side, less secure people often find fault with others. Perceiving ourselves accurately, it enhances our self-concept. These are factors that help in accurate perception or perceiving things. Next is past experience. Our perceptions are often guided by our past experience and what we expect to see. A person's past experience molds the way he perceives the current situation. If a person has been betrayed by a couple of friends in the past, then he would tend to distrust any new friendship that he might be in the process of developing. So, our past experience, it affects the way we perceive people or events. Next is our current psychological state. The psychological and emotional state of an individual are likely to influence how things are perceived. If a person is depressed, he is likely to perceive the same situation differently than if he is elated. So our mood, if we are depressed, then we perceive things differently from when we are in an elated mood. So in different mood, we will perceive things differently. Similarly, if a person is scared out of wits by seeing a snake in the garden, then that person will be likely to perceive a rope under the bed as a snake. So this happens. Then comes beliefs. A person's belief influences his perception to great extent. Thus, a fact is conceived not on what it is, but what a person believes it to be. The individual normally censors stimulus inputs to avoid the disturbance of his existing beliefs. So, belief influence the person's perception in a very great extent. Expectations. Expectations affect the perception of a person. Expectations are related with the state of anticipation of particular behavior from a person. For example, a technical manager will expect that the non-technical people will be ignorant about the technical features of the product. So, the beliefs, the expectations, etc. are certain characteristics in the perceiver that affect the person's perception. Then comes situation, the elements in the environment surrounding. For example, the time, the location, the light, heat, etc. All these things influence his perception. The context in which a person sees the object, that is the situation or the event, it is very important and it affects the perception. Then cultural upbringing. A person's ethics, values and the cultural upbringing, it plays an important role in the perception about others. It is difficult to perceive the personality of a person raised in another culture because our judgment is based upon our values. So the cultural upbringing also have an important role in the perception. Now let's have a quick recap on what we have learned. We have learned who is a perceiver. A person who makes perception or a person who becomes aware of the things or events through his senses. That is a perceiver. And the characteristics of perceiver that affect the perception. They are needs and motives, self-concept, past experience, current psychological state, beliefs, expectations, situation, and cultural upbringing. Hope you like this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you and keep smiling.